everyone. I haven't done a blog here in the last couple of weeks. I've been busy getting the last edits ready for my upcoming book, To Live and Die in the Floating World. Been working hard with my editor and publisher at Blank Slate Press. Hi, Christy. And it's just about ready. Sent off the last edits a few days ago, and I'm hoping that will do the job. And I must say, I've had a few comments about the blogs and my other books, and I can't tell you how encouraging that is. It's hard to express what it means when you find that people are actually following what you're saying and finding some enjoyment in the books. Sometimes that's all the motivation you need, just a couple of people. So I thank you all who have been watching these regularly. And as I've probably mentioned before, this book, which is set on the canals of Burgundy on a small tourist barge, they call them paniche d'hôtel, harkens back to those days when I worked on the Wearianda, a boat like that, as I'm describing. In fact, when I described the Celeste, which is the book I'm writing about in To Live and Die in the Floating World, I'm really describing the Wearianda that I worked on many years ago. I'm a storyteller. Those of you who've been watching these blogs or reading previous ones I've written, or have read my books, or my many friends who've had the patience to listen to me telling stories know that about me. I'm a storyteller. And in the books, I try not to indulge in a lot of literary flourishes or go into pages and pages of internal wanderings and introspection. I tell stories, and so that's kind of what I like to do with these blogs too. And as I went over the book, it again took me back to that time and reminded me of some of the stories, the events that happened while I worked for this boat, the Wearianda, in the last month of its season many years ago. And I thought I'd share one of those with you. It has to do with how I got my job on the Wearianda. I had decided as a young man to take all my savings, which didn't amount to much, and I was going to kick around Europe for 6 months all by myself. And I'd been doing that for quite some time. It'd come on to September. I was running a little low on cash. I was afraid I might have to come home early. But I and some friends had rented a small boat, one of these that you drive yourself, a little tiny thing, around the canals. And we were going to do that for a few days. And so I got there first to this little port on the canals called Pouilly-en-Assois. And while I waited for my friends to show, I struck up a conversation with an Australian woman. Her name was Diane Lim, who owned the Wearianda, a large 100-foot paniche d'hôtel, a tourist barge, large at least in comparison to what I had. It would be considered quite small now for a tour barge. And we struck up a nice conversation, a little bit of a friendship. And I was waiting for my friends and talking about what I hoped to do over the next few days on my little boat. And she was bemoaning the fact that she'd had to fire one of her 4 crew members, the one who accompanied the boat on a little car that went along the dirt towpath. In fact, it was a London taxi she had, which caused a lot of people to look twice to see if that was really a London taxi passing them in France. And the job of that person driving the car is to run ahead of the boat to the next lock and say, there's a boat coming, could we get the lock ready? And that sounds pretty minor, but by having the lock ready when the boat comes in, that saves 5 or 10 minutes a lock. And when you might go through 15, 20 locks in a day, you save a lot of time and you do a lot more cruising rather than sitting around. So it was an important position. And as I say, she'd fired him. And I said, well, I can drive. I'll do that for you as soon as I'm back from my little jaunt in my boat with my friends. And she said, great. We shook hands on that. And so I did my little tour. And she said, I'd asked her, how will I find you when I'm through? She said, well, she'll be between the towns of Montbard and Tonnerre in Burgundy. And I figured, well, that's probably a length of 2 or 3 miles. She's been quite precise. And I'll have no problem finding the boat along the canal. Well, my tour was up, and I went into Dijon to catch a train. Dijon's kind of the capital of Burgundy. And I looked at the map on the station wall, and there's like 50 kilometers, 30 miles between those 2 towns. And good luck finding the boat, pal. I figured, well, you know, Diane's halfway through her 10-day tour with this group of passengers. And so I bought a ticket for a little town, little village, really, halfway along, figuring that I'd probably be pretty close at that point. And bought the ticket, went running up to the platform, and watched the back end of the train disappear down the tracks. I just missed it, which put me in a bit of a foul mood because it was already late afternoon, and the next train wasn't for, oh gosh, 3 or 4 hours. So by the time I got on the train, it was already getting dusk. And I thought, I'm going to have so little time now to find the boat, and it'll be dark, and I'll have to throw out my sleeping bag somewhere and sleep under a bridge, which I really wasn't looking forward to. Anyway, I get on the train, and it drops me off in this little tiny village. And to make matters worse, I come out of the station, and clouds have rolled in, and it's starting to rain. And it hasn't rained like in 2 months, in which, you know, it starts to rain on the very night that I may have to sleep outside. So I'm in a very foul mood. Being late, not knowing where the boat is. It's starting to rain. I don't know what to do with myself or how to find the boat at this point. And I asked a passerby, young woman, I said, where's the canal? And she pointed down the bottom of this little road where there's a bridge. And so I can't remember if I was actually cursing to myself, but I was in a pretty bad mood. And I come down to the bridge, figuring I'll be sleeping under it, like some sort of troll. And I looked up the canal, and there she was, the Wearianda, 50 yards away, moored for the night. The warm lights glowing, making me feel very welcome. And I walked down the dirt towpath, which is about as wide as a car, and came onto the boat. And they were so surprised to see me. I mean, I said to them, I told you I'd come. And she said, yeah, but we didn't really think you would show. So I was greeted warmly by everybody, and that started my month working on the Wearianda. And a rich and full month it was, and it gave me the story that I can't tell you too much about because it gives too much away. But it's the basis for this suspense thriller I've written, To Live and Die in the Floating World. And so now I've got to do my marketing, by the way. That's how it is with publishing anymore. The publisher does as much as it can, but it's up to the writer a lot now. I suspect, like most writers, I would like nothing more than just to shut the door to my study and be up here for a few hours writing every day and be done with it. But I've got to do my share of the work. So you can, the book is ready for pre-order. It will be released on October 5th is the official release date. But you can pre-order with a lot of online booksellers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and others. But also you can order it through me, through my website, Stephen Holgate Wright, that's W-R-I-T-E, and Stephen with a P-H. You'll have to forgive me for repeating myself. I'm sure I said this at the end of the last blog. StephenHolgatewright.com. And I'll try to have it out the day after you order it. And if you like, I will even write a little dedication on it. Though I always warn people that my handwriting is so bad that having me put my signature on it actually decreases the value of the book. One advantage of ordering through me is I don't charge shipping and handling. It's more important to me to have readers than it is to make a lot of money off the book. So anyway, I hope you've liked this story, and for those of you so inclined, I very much hope you'll like To Live and Die in the Floating World. Take care, and I'll be doing this again in about a week.